D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. We hope you are having a wonderful Tuesday afternoon, a beautiful yet chilly day in our fair city in the 40s. Willie Donick, what's the temperature in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada right now?
All right. Let me just tell you, and if you look at my Twitter, you will see that it's snowing rapidly. It got to -8 last night, I think was the low. It was 8 above on the way over to the rink today. But let me give you, Adam, because I mean this is a first class show. I want you to have the up to the minute information here. It is up to 15.
Wow.
It feels like -10. It is a straight snowfall right now.
A heat wave down there, up there.
Oh, they're very excited. They say spring is just around the corner.
It technically is, but maybe not from a weather-wise for them. Hey, I need to admit something on air.
Please tell everybody.
I committed a homicide.
What?
Yeah. I broke Music City Hockey. I broke, who is this?
That's Tim McGraw.
Yeah, I broke Tim McGraw.
You broke Tim McGraw?
Yeah.
Breaking news, Derek Mason has murdered Tim McGraw.
Yes, I broke
Bobblehead.
Tim McGraw.
The bobblehead.
Yes, I was getting my
The real Tim McGraw
headphones.
is fine.
Yeah, the real Tim McGraw is fine, great. But I was getting my headphones and the wire was entangled with his legs and I pulled it and
A likely story.
I'll say this.
three pieces.
Nick is not happy with you right now.
5 minutes.
3
okay?
pieces.
He's really upset with you right now because he has to fix that now.
Derek would not make a good criminal. He would leave
I
too many
really
clues
wouldn't.
behind.
No, I really wouldn't.
Sadly, it's not nearly the first homicide. of the
Exactly.
Bobbleheads
To be
in the studio.
clear,
I confessed to the murder of the Scott Hartnell bobblehead a few years ago, despite our attempts. And Darren McFarland was the lead surgeon to try to put Scott Hartnell back together. And we were so sad about it, we actually called Scott Hartnell and got him on the show to just try to deal with the whole thing, the trauma of everything.
Man.
And then, of course, Derek, your own bobblehead.
Yeah,
was
I
smashed.
busted that one up.
That one's still on life support.
Yeah.
It's still alive in the studio, but barely.
There's a lot of tape on it.
Derek lobotomized his own bobblehead. That's what it looks like.
I'm a serial bobblehead.
And by the
guy.
way, to be more specific, Derek decapitated Tim McGraw.
Yes.
Head
Three
completely
pieces.
off
Oh,
the
that's
shoulders.
Yeah.
That's tough.
I'm sorry,
That's
Tim.
tough.
I'm sorry, Tim.
Oh,
Oh,
I
well.
don't like it. I don't love it. I don't want any more of it. Derek Mason. But Willie, you will be pleased to know upon your return to Nashville tomorrow, Friday, when we are at Boomba's in our neck of the woods in East Nashville, the high temperature in Nashville, 80 degrees.
Oh yeah, Willie.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
You get to wear shorts.
Yes.
I would say today is officially, and I'm going to make it official, even though I haven't done the research. But this is officially the coldest I've ever been on March 17th. There's no question.
Wow. Well, you may be. I can't say it's not.
Also,
Or
happy
not.
St. Patrick's Day to
Is
those
it
who
St. Patrick's Day?
observe with a V. Yes, it is St. Patrick's Day.
No. I mean, I have, what is it? Is that 13% Irish in me? I don't know where it came from.
That's more than I would have anticipated.
Yeah, me too. When I saw the thing, it's more than I anticipated. So I can celebrate St. Patrick's Day, can I?
You don't need to be
absolutely.
Irish to celebrate St. Patrick's Day.
But
You don't.
I would
You
feel, I
go
would
with the
feel-
flow.
I know, but I would feel like genuine, like, yes, I can genuinely celebrate this day.
Well,
And not just looking for another day to drink.
my wife, whose maiden name is Bresnahan,
Uh-huh.
quite Irish. She is making corned beef tonight.
Ah.
We'll see if I actually like it.
You never had corned beef?
I don't know if I've had it in the way that she's preparing.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But we'll see. We'll see how my stomach feels later. One texter says, does Derek Mason need bobblehead therapy?
Yes.
Dustin in Hopkinsville says, damn, Derek's really upset about these uniforms, LOL. Just taking out bobbleheads left and right.
Oh, man.
So in preparation of the NCAA men's basketball tournament, which starts on Thursday, actually it starts tonight. The first four starts tonight in the NCAA men's basketball tournament. The round of 64 starts on Thursday. Let me clarify. So if you want your basketball fix, you can get it tonight. I was doing some research. You know, I like to fill out my own bracket. And I stumbled across a story on ESPN that had some fast facts about every team in the field, including notable alumni. And I regret to inform both of you that neither of you made the cut for notable alumni from your respective alma maters.
That's ridiculous.
Wow.
From the Michigan State Spartans, some guy named Magic Johnson.
Of course.
Who's that?
Le'Veon Bell.
Better known as Irvin.
Yes.
Yes.
Le'Veon Bell. Bubba Smith.
Yeah, Bubba.
Dan Gilbert, and Jeff Johns.
What?
Those are the notable alumni listed.
Dan Gilbert.
The owner of the
Man.
Cavs.
Okay.
Yes, the
They
owner
must
of the
have
Cavs.
donated a lot of money.
And Jeff Johns, I want to say, works for DC or Marvel. Again, this may come as a shock to all of you. I am not a huge superhero nerd. I'm a nerd about other things. And for Vanderbilt, Dierks Bentley, Buster Olney, David Price, Dinah Shore, and James Patterson. 0, Willie Donick.
Come on.
That's a shame.
It is. Come on, Willie.
Sure.
Who do I need to call? Who do I need to call, Willie? God.
You couldn't
You
even
know-
make the cut.
I think we both need to make some calls, Derek.
Yes.
I mean, they don't realize the magnitude of DVD these days. Come on.
They don't. Either we need to make a call or write a check. I think the check could be suffice.
Yeah.
Put your
They won't do it.
money where your mouth is, Derek.
Exactly.
Right.
One texter says, Derek Mason sacrificing bobbleheads, trying to cure Calvin Ridley of his bobble hands. We'll
Oh,
see
no.
if it works.
Oh,
We'll see if
man,
it
I'm
works.
trying to do
Cold-blooded.
something here.
In the fall. Yes. Cold-blooded early on in the show. But let's start by sticking with the NCAA men's basketball tournament. Vanderbilt kicks off its tournament on Thursday afternoon, a 2:15 p.m. Central tip-off in Oklahoma City as the 5th seed in the South region against McNeese. And here is the question we are all going to answer to start the show, and you can as well. 615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. What is Vanderbilt's ceiling in the NCAA tournament? And here's how I want us to answer this question. Name the round. So, for example, if you think Vanderbilt's ceiling is the Elite Eight, say the Elite Eight. If you think it's the Sweet 16, say Sweet 16. So what is Vanderbilt's ceiling? Willie, correct me if I'm wrong. It has been nearly 20 years since Vanderbilt advanced past the first weekend in the NCAA tournament.
They made the Sweet 16 in 2007, I believe. Is that right?
Yes,
The
that
last
would
time
be
there was
close
with
to 20
Shane
years.
Foster and Derek Byers. They had Dan Cage, and in that season, they really caught fire during the conference part of the season, and they advanced to the Sweet 16 and had a late lead against Georgetown. And Georgetown was very good. Georgetown ended up in the Final Four, if I'm not mistaken. And there was a play that every Vanderbilt fan will remember. Jeff Green, who might still be playing in the NBA. I don't know. He played in the NBA forever. If he's retired, it's very recently. He played for a million different teams. But he traveled back in the days that there actually was a rule for traveling. There apparently is no rule for traveling
No,
these
you don't- you
days.
can't
They let
travel.
you take as many steps as you like. It's ridiculous. They've got to revisit that. But he got away with the travel on the winning bucket in the closing seconds, and that cost Vanderbilt, I think, a trip to the Final Eight. And I think they've only made the Final Eight one time, and that was back when Clyde Lee, who is still one of probably the 5 best players ever at Vanderbilt. He led them to that point back when I think only 16 teams made it to the tournament. Back in the day, it was harder to make the tournament because only 16 or 24 teams made it back then. So Kentucky was so dominant. Vanderbilt went through a long stretches without making it, only because you can only get one team out of your league most of the time. But so I do think, just because of the nature of college sports, right, there's more parity. I think you can dream about
Commodore's ceiling in this NCAA tournament.
Well, I think if you're talking about the ceiling, like the dream, I don't I think the way the draw can open up these days, and the way upsets can happen, even though we're going to get to some of the dynamics here, because so many of the best teams in the smaller leagues didn't win the conference tournament, like Belmont. I don't know. I will say Final Four. I think the ceiling is the Final Four. I don't think it's completely unrealistic at all. Now a lot has to go well. They've got to play their absolute best. They probably need some breaks, but I don't think it's too crazy to say Final Four.
I'm looking at the bracket, and that's why when we talked about yesterday, did they deserve a higher seed? Yeah, I think all of us agreed they deserved a higher seed, whatever that seed is, 4 3. But we decided that, hey, and a lot of other people, they deserved a higher seed than 5.
They are better than a
yes,
5 seed.
Exactly. But as we talked about yesterday, this may end up working out in their favor because of the region, the South region that they're in. They've beaten Texas A&M already. They've beaten Florida, and then when they lost to Florida, it was a high-scoring game. I think Illinois is a good team. Nebraska's a good team. Obviously, McNeese State is gonna, they're gonna give them all that they can handle. And that first round game is always one of those toss-ups, even though it's a 5 and a 12. We know the history of that. But as I look at this bracket, I'm thinking the ceiling is Final Four for them. Because
the two of you have high hopes.
They've beaten Florida.
Well, that doesn't. You said the ceiling. That doesn't mean they couldn't lose the first.
Exactly.
Game. I mean, that's the nature of the tournament, right? They could lose and be out on Thursday. I'm not sitting there. They got to make the Final Four, or it's a failure.
Oh, I'm not asking you to say that.
I'm not that guy.
No, yeah, I understand.
So and then Houston. If you look at Houston's schedule, I mean, they play in a tough division. Obviously, we know that, but they've lost to Iowa State, Arizona, and Kansas. They lost the last game of the season, obviously, Arizona in the
Big 12
title game. I think Houston is a very dangerous team, but it's about matchups. Can Vandy match up well with Houston? I don't think Houston is a big team, long team. They can put points on the board and they can shoot the lights out. But Houston also can go into a rut where they're not hitting baskets in a game. They've already lost. They've lost to UT in the SEC. So I look at this bracket and I think if they can get out of the first round, which is not a guarantee, but if they can get out of the first round, I think their ceiling is a Final Four. And depending what happens in the East, now I'm going a little bit too far on here because Duke's over there and Michigan State's over there and Kansas. So they got some juggernauts over on that side on the East bracket. But depending on how things shake out in the East and who they may have to play. I love my Spartans. I love them. And I would pick them if Vandy and them were playing. But if those two teams met, I couldn't sit here and 100% and say, oh, Spartans are winning. Because I think Vandy and the Spartans match up well with one another. So it's all about matchups as you continue to go further. That's why, for me, it's a Final Four. And depending what happens in the East, dare I say, and I know a lot of people may no. And Willie, you're probably like, no, don't say that. Don't say that. But I can see them in the national championship game.
Oh, Derek.
I can see them. Hey, listen.
Oh,
Duke,
Derek.
And listen, it's the East has some teams on that side.
Indeed.
And they may end up knocking themselves off. And Duke may not be because they don't match up well with Duke. I just don't think.
Vanderbilt?
Yeah, I don't think Vandy matches up well with Duke. I don't.
I don't think they would match up well with Michigan either.
Yeah, Michigan, because Michigan's a bigger team.
Arizona.
I haven't seen enough of Arizona.
But see, Michigan's not in that. Michigan is
no
not in the East. That's what I'm saying. Michigan and those other teams that you're talking, they're not in the East. There are bigger teams. They definitely wouldn't match up well with Michigan. Not at all, because Michigan's a big team and physical team. But if you're looking at the bracket, just looking at the East and the South bracket, if if they made it to the national championship game based on what I'm looking, and again, they could lose in the first round. I would not be surprised. I wouldn't.
You heard it here first, folks.
I would not be. I didn't say they were going, folks. I said if they made it in the region that they're in, on the side that they're in, they have a possibility of making it. If it works out in their favor in the East, they have a possibility of making it to the national championship game.
So both of you have said that Vanderbilt's ceiling is the Final Four.
Yes.
Okay. By the way, somewhere Coach Willie is breaking out in hives,
I know.
hearing
He hates it.
everything.
He's freaking
No,
out.
Derek
He's just like, oh,
Mason
no,
just-
no,
It's different to say
no.
the ceiling. The ceiling is a different question.
Yes,
Than
of course.
you know what is going to happen. We know how hard it is to get there. But what's been great about everything that's happened at Vanderbilt the last couple of years. I don't know exactly when you would start the clock,
Mhm.
but I mean, you could argue it started when Tim Corbin, started winning national championships for baseball. The belief that you could win at a high level, I think, has flowed throughout. And now what the football team is doing, it's like, hey, if the football team can do what they're doing, who can't win at the highest level? I think there's a belief that you can do it now, especially with the way college athletics has shifted and Vanderbilt has shifted with it and not chose to go the other way and say, oh, we don't want to do this. We don't want to pay our players. They've jumped in there and said, we can be in this game and we can be effective. I just think that infiltrates your brain. I think the mentality, and it has you kind of believing the highest of highs possible when it was not as easy to pull that off back with some of the restrictions they had 20 or 30 years ago.
My answer to this question, what is Vanderbilt's ceiling in the NCAA tournament? My answer is Elite Eight.
Okay.
And I struggled with this. Part of me wanted to say Sweet 16 because I am skeptical, despite what I saw just a couple of days ago, watching Vanderbilt punk Florida in the SEC semis. Because for those who haven't studied the bracket, if it's chalky and all of the top seeds advance through the first weekend in the Sweet 16, Vanderbilt would play Florida in the Sweet 16. So I just saw Vanderbilt punk Florida in the SEC semis. Derek, as you mentioned, when these two teams met in the regular season, I believe the final score was Florida 98, Vanderbilt 94. So I've seen Vanderbilt give Florida a game and then beat Florida soundly. Part of me is skeptical that Vanderbilt can do it again. But because I have seen how Vanderbilt matches up with Florida, I will give Vanderbilt the benefit of the doubt in this scenario. So I can imagine a scenario where Vanderbilt does beat Florida again. It would be incredibly tough, but I can't ignore what I just saw with my own 4 eyes 3 days ago, right? Beyond that, I'm sure this team has what it takes to make the Final Four. I don't know how the Commodores would match up with Houston or Illinois, assuming one of those two teams comes out on the other side of the South region. I still have questions about the lack of size. I know, to Willie's point, against Tennessee and Florida in the SEC tournament, Vanderbilt held its own physically, but the lack of size concerns me about this team making a deep run. I've got questions about the Commodores defensively as well. I know that their offense is electric, but I do have questions about them defensively. So I will say Elite Eight.
You got to create turnovers. And
See,
615-737-1025. What is Vanderbilt's ceiling in the NCAA tournament? Elite Eight, Sweet 16, Final Four. This is Derek Mason and
national
Willie Donick.
championship.
Oh, God.
Please don't do
615
that.
737 1025. You let us know. We'll continue the conversation coming up next. I also do have a general question about the NCAA tournament, something that is associated with the NCAA tournament that appears to be going by the wayside. 615 737 1025. Speaking of the tournament, come play hooky with us at 1025 The Game this Thursday at Jelly Rolls Goodnight Nashville and on Friday at Boom Bars in East Nashville from noon to 6. Watch the basketball games with us, enjoy great food, handcrafted beverages, and win prizes. The NCAA tournament coverage here on 1025 The Game is presented by Toyota, Thompson Machinery, and Pizzona MD. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you talking NCAA Tournament. What is Vanderbilt's ceiling in the NCAA Tournament, which starts tonight with first four action, but the round of 64 starts on Thursday. That's when Vanderbilt plays McNeese, a 2:15 p.m. Central tip-off. By the way, you can hear that game right here on 1025 The Game. Let's get quickly to some of your reactions. Ricky says, Sweet 16, not beating Florida again. Joey says, Elite 8. He also says the Blues in that game. So Joey says, Tennessee ceiling is the round of 32. Chris says, what a bunch of Vandy homers. LOL, I'm pulling for them. Well, Willie did play for Vanderbilt basketball, so he's allowed to be a homer if he wants to.
I'm not a homer.
That Florida, despite
No, you're right. I mean, but maybe it's this, and I've been thinking about this. Why is it that because we've all watched Vandy for the whole season. We
Yes.
paid attention to them, you know, like no other because of the season that they were having. And frankly, what Bynes has been able to do since he's gotten here, and he's made this team, more than a competitive team. Excuse me. This is one of the best teams in the country. But I think just like when you've been bad, and the basketball team hasn't been bad for long. They had their ups and downs. But I think just like the football team, when you either have been bad for a good bit or you just had these up and down seasons, I think people are sort of hesitant to pick you to go further. Whether that we saw it on the football end, I think, and now we're seeing it on the basketball end because there is no way they played in the toughest division in college basketball. I think it's not as top strong, but it is the toughest from top to bottom, and they more than held their own against every team that they played. Now, there may be an outlier here and there, but they showed me through that grueling schedule that they are one of the top teams in the country. And again, if the matchups fall in their favor, they have an opportunity to find themselves not just in the Elite Eight or Final Four, but honestly in the championship game. But I think people are sort of really hesitant to think that about Vandy. If Duke has, which they've had in their history, they've had up and down years, but because they've won championships and everything else, people just automatically like, okay, they're gonna be in a national championship game, regardless of what else is going on. Duke is gonna be in it. Vandy hasn't gotten to that point yet from a basketball standpoint. If they had rolled off like 5 great seasons and they were going into this year's, I think people would pick them to go further than what they have. But because they've been up and down, and there are some limitations in their basketball. I get it. Their height is one, their length is one. I get that part. But they've shown me more times than not that and I know it's a lot of ifs, but still, if Nickel is shooting like he shot in the championship game, SEC championship game.
Yes, 5 of 7 from 3.
This team can go very far because you got to understand, that's what they've been missing. They've been missing him hitting shots like he was at the beginning of the season, the first half of the year. So if they can get that Nickelback, they got to prove Nickelback.
I am in Canada.
Exactly. So if they can get that guy back, that's why I can see them potentially making it to the national championship game.
So do you think, Derek, listening to what you just said,
Mm-hmm.
I know we talked a lot about this with the football team.
Mhm.
Do you think that there is this sort of brand bias in play here?
Oh, of course.
In the sense that Vanderbilt, as a basketball program, has had its moments, but not to the extent of the top teams in the country. I think you may have seen that at play with the seeding, right?
Yes.
No disrespect, Derek Mason, to your Spartans.
Yes.
But the Commodores, I think, played better over the final 3 weeks of the season than the Spartans did.
No, they did. I watched it. They did.
The Spartans get a 3 seed and Vanderbilt gets a 5 seed. So maybe there's some brand bias there. I don't want to go down that road. We did that with the football team. But I get what you're saying, that you think that people have built a low ceiling for the Commodores basketball team because they just really haven't seen it.
Exactly.
And a lot of people, Willie, may not have watched Vanderbilt as closely as we have, obviously. So I understand what Derek is saying.
I think the brand bias thing, I don't know. I think it's like the collective brand bias mentally from fans probably has not caught up to what we've seen in college sports. Indiana winning a national championship in football. Florida Atlantic was in the Final Four, 2 years ago in basketball?
2-3 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's different. Loyola Chicago recently has been to the Final Four. Wichita State. There's a lot of examples of teams. Coastal Carolina won the College World Series in baseball not too long ago. So it is shifting, I think. And Coastal Carolina did it before the NIL came in. But you see what I'm saying? The reality is different than our perception that has been built into our minds for 50 or 70 years, right? That only the blue bloods at the top can win it, right? Or can get to a Final Four. That's just not the case. So it's a little more realistic than it used to be.
615-737-1025. Willie mentioned some great stories from NCAA tournaments past. Loyola Chicago, Florida Atlantic, Florida Gulf Coast, a.k.a. Dunk City, St. Peter's with that dude who had the wispy mustache who kind of looks like Timothy Chalamet. Like a lot of great stories. And
Fairleigh Dickinson, the 16th seed.
Right. So I do want to touch on that coming up next, because I do wonder about whether the days of the quote unquote Cinderellas are disappearing. There was a great story in The Athletic to this effect. We'll discuss it coming up next. 615-737-1025. Right Time. HVAC and Cromwell Media are teaming up to bring comfort back to your home. Is your heating system struggling or completely out of commission following the winter storms, or do you need a fix to get you ready for summer? Nominate yourself for the Right Time Home Rescue and tell us your story. Enter today at thegamenashville.com/HVAC, and you could win a new HVAC system installed by Right Time HVAC. Locally owned and operated, there's never a wrong time to call Right Time.
There we
No, this is not the buzz.
go.
This is the game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan. Derek talking about Tyler Nickel,
Yeah.
Nickelback,
Yes.
hence Chad Kroger and co. And Willie is in Canada, where the national anthem is not. Why am I forgetting the name of the Canadian? Oh, Canada. That's so dumb. The national anthem of Canada is not "Oh Canada." It's "Photograph" by Nickelback. Actually,
There you go.
It is quite a polarizing topic up here. It was funny that you said that because last night we were just in the hotel restaurant, which, Adam, I believe you have probably been to at one point or another, the Elephant and Castle.
oh
You
yeah,
familiar
spent
with
many
that?
a time,
many nights,
many
there, I'm
nights
sure.
during
And
the 2018
good-
playoffs. Yes.
good pub grub there, shall we say? But we were all just they were playing a playlist of Canadian bands, and all of the Canadians present were going, "Oh yeah, I remember these guys and these guys." There was no Nickelback played, so I don't know if that what kind of message that was being sent to the Nickelback fans or what. But I feel like they'll come back around. I think there was a while that they were kind of like overexposed and like, okay, I can't do any more Nickelback.
But here's the most important question, Willie. Did the pub play Winnipeg's own Crash Test Dummies? Did it
not
play-
while I was there.
Crash
I was
Test
not
Dummies.
the last person to leave the restaurant, but it's possible they did. I am familiar with them
Yes.
because
Their hit song
and
is
I think-
That's the name of the song.
yes, I can remember the summer it was out. It was played all summer, and I was playing in Canada that summer, so that got more play than I
Oh, man.
that I care to remember.
So let's focus on the NCAA tournament as a whole. You heard Willie in the previous segment. He mentioned some great stories in recent years of underdogs going farther than anybody expected. 2018 Loyola Chicago with Sister Jean, and 2011 Virginia Commonwealth. I mentioned 2022 St. Peter's with, as I mentioned, the white dude with the wispy mustache who sort of looks like Timothy Chalamet. My personal story about this is in 2006, when George Mason made its run to the Final Four. I was living in Virginia. I was entering my senior year in high school, and I was planning to apply to George Mason, which is in Fairfax, Virginia, just outside of D.C. And I remember being freaked out that I wasn't going to get into George Mason because so many people were going to see George Mason in the tournament that their applications would spike and there would be too many applicants and I wouldn't get in. Like that's how worried I was. I got in, by the way. But that's the part about March Madness that the casuals love. You know, the three of us are basketball sickos. We love watching college basketball in November and December and January and February. But a lot of people don't like watching college basketball in November and December and January and February. I heard Robbie Stanley say, I believe yesterday, he's about to watch college basketball for the first time this season in the tournament. And a lot of people,
What?
a lot of people,
Exactly?
How could that be? We have to talk to
Man.
Robbie.
yes, we
Come
do.
on.
God.
He doesn't have X anymore, so we can't tweet at him. But we do have to have a talk. But Robbie represents a lot of people who aren't going to be watching college basketball until the tournament when they're filling out brackets and as part of office pools and things like that. But The Athletic wrote a great story today with the headline, Cinderella's bring the magic to March Madness, but are they going the way of phone books? And this is a story we've talked about in other sports with NIL and the transfer portal. Those mid-major teams that stick together for 4 years, they're not extinct, but they're endangered. There was a stat in the story that was just eye-popping to me. Quote, the number of Division I men's basketball transfers has surged from 957 in 2019 to 2,530 in 2025, the latter number making up 40% of the total men's basketball players in the season. And these mid-major programs, St. Peter's, for example, 2 or 3 years ago, 4 years ago, after the Peacocks, right? The Peacocks went on their run to the Elite Eight, their roster was raided. All of those players transferred. I believe their coach even took another job. And that's what happens now. These mid-majors are feeder schools, just like we talk about in football, to these major basketball programs. So there's a lot of chalkiness, Willie, to the NCAA tournament now, which I'm okay with. I want the best teams to compete for the national title, but for the casuals who want to tune in and watch a great story, it's becoming harder and harder.
I think right now it is. I do think that just like everything, the mid majors will adjust and figure out how to get back to where they've always been. That's dangerous. Like I think it's a really good theory that they put out there. I'm not sure I'd buy it completely. I know the recent trend would suggest that, but everybody's in a place of adapting right now. So I don't know if this is going to be what we see going forward in the tournament. I do think some of it depends on the best teams. I'll say, like, I use Belmont as the example. They're not the only one. But I think Belmont losing, it brings in another team from that league that's not as good. And so that decreases the chances that the best team in the mid-majors represents their league in the tournament. Those are the teams that I think year in and year out have the best chance to pull the upsets. But and that's why I think you sent some stuff, Adam, on the point spreads of the 5 versus 12s are abnormally high. I pointed out yesterday, I can go back in my memory and remember some 12s that were a dead pick or even favored on a rare occasion over the 5s. It's been that even at times. That's not the case this year. But I think what you don't see anymore, because of what you said, the mid-major rosters get rated. You have a great year at a mid-major level, somebody's coming after you. They're your best players. And Casey Alexander had to deal with that at Belmont. After Belmont was one of those teams that had that continuity year after year. That's what made them really good every year. That you can mark them down for 20 wins a year. And like Loyola Chicago, when they made the Final Four, they had a lot of guys who had played together for 2 or 3 years. That just doesn't exist anymore.
Well, I think we all are creatures of, hey, listen, what is happening now? What's the hot thing? Prisoner of the moment. And last year it was chalk, and they believe this year is going to be the same thing. But I think, like you said, Willie, I think there's an adjustment period for these mid-majors that the longer this goes, they'll figure out a way, at least not all of them, but some of them, they will figure out a way and raise enough money where, because in basketball, you only need one guy. If you got one guy and some good players around them on a mid-major, you can find yourself upsetting a few teams in March Madness. So yeah, I believe once the mid-major, once it kind of settles in some more, and it may take a couple of years, but once it's settled in, because didn't nobody think before NIL, it was like there was a long time before you would see like sparingly here and there team. But then it got to a point where it started to become more, and people started to love it because the lower seed teams will find themselves winning, 2, possibly 3 games. So, and it balanced it out. So I think it's going to have to balance itself out again. I think it's going to come. It may not be next year, may not be the year after that. But I think some of these, again, not all, but like you said, the Belmonts of the world, the teams that are the best in their conference, they're going to find a way to start raising more money. And they're going to get those guys that are transferring, because basketball is different from football. I don't care just about where you're playing. If you can shoot the ball and you're a player. If you can shoot the ball, they'll find a space for you. Okay? So as long as you can shoot the basketball, we'll pay you some money to come here. And eventually, I think it'll start leveling out a lot of what's going on now. Because, I remember Villanova was an 8 seed back then, but I remember in 85 when Villanova won. Didn't nobody pick them to win. Nobody picked them to get that far, and they end up winning. We can have stories like that. It doesn't always have to be like a 12, 13, 14 seed or lower. It can be that 8 or 9 seed, that ends up leveling out, and you find those 8 and 9s, those 10s ends up moving further along in the tournament.
Willie, to your point,
remember you have for every action an equal and opposite reaction. Right. So, for example, when your roster gets rated, let's use a player from Nashville. Malik Dia, he started at Vanderbilt. He, as a freshman, didn't play much. So he transferred to Belmont. Had a great year at Belmont and then cashed in at Ole Miss. He's played at Ole Miss the last couple of years. He's been a really good player for them. So he's been an example of a guy that is snapped up by a mid-major team on the way down, right? That's how the mid-majors can react to what's happening around college basketball. But also Malik Dia is an example of a really good player on Belmont's team getting raided, and now you got to go find somebody else. So it's a constant shuffle. And then I think the other thing that I see being a trend in the coming years is high school seniors saying, you know what, I'm tired of seeing some of these people around being really good recruits. They go to a major program, they don't play right away, and so you have a year where you sit, where it might be smart. Like McNeese, their best player, his name is Larry Johnson. He's a freshman. I don't know what his offers were out of high school, but he's their best player as a true freshman. I think those are opportunities that smart freshmen might say, you know what, instead of taking a chance where I could get recruited over, they're going to bring in a transfer who's a fifth-year senior and I'm on the bench, I'll be the main man at a mid-major. And so that I think that's the kind of balance that you'll see sort itself out over the next few years.
All 4 12 seeds, according to ESPN, opened as at least 8.5-point underdogs to 5 seeds, a first since the field expanded to 64 teams in 1985. And the average opening line in 5-12 matchups was minus 10.8, the largest ever and 2 points greater than the previous mark in 2016. And I hear both of y'all's points, and I understand that with NIL and the transfer portal, in some ways, those things spread out the talent at the power conference level, which means more teams are capable of competing. Part of me worries for the casual fan of college basketball. And a lot of you listening are casual fans of college basketball. The three of us are always going to watch the NCAA tournament. We're going to be watching college basketball from mid to late November when it starts to now. That's just who we are. We're sickos. We love college basketball, but we are unique, I think. And the foothold for a lot of people into the NCAA tournament is, look at this random team, this ragtag group of 1 and 2 star recruits that came together, that's been playing together in relative obscurity for 3 or 4 years. They go into the tournament and they beat a blue blood. What was the name of the dude from Oakland who couldn't miss a 3 against Kentucky?
He played against Trevecca.
Yes.
He played games against Trevecca for a couple of years, right down the
Wasn't
street
he like
from our
30 years
station.
old?
He looked it. He
looked like 30. He's probably 25.
But
at least. He hit 10 threes.
That's a
for
great
Oakland. Yeah,
that's a great story. And people, I mean, who didn't love Sister Jean? You know, this,
absolutely.
you know, this, how, I don't even know how old she is now. I think she's passed, right? Has she passed?
Yeah, she passed
but
away.
very recently though. But so she got into the well over the 100.
Yeah, she
but
was.
Here's why. Here's why you don't
story.
worry, Adam. I'm gonna reassure you and all the casual fans out there. You'll always have the Sister Jeans, the dude from Oakland, the guys with the mustaches. They're always going to be those guys. Here's why. It's one game. One game with all the pressure. It's not a 2 out of 3. It's not a 3 out of 5. You have one bad game and the other team has a great game. Cinderella is always in the mix. It could happen to Vanderbilt. It could happen to Tennessee. It has happened to Duke. I know you don't like remembering those days.
I was in attendance for one of those. Thank you very much.
Yes,
I was there for Duke's loss to Mercer.
It's going to keep happening. For that reason, it's
Middle Tennessee beating Michigan State.
Seriously, we had to go there.
Yes, we did. If Willie is going to bring up my pain, I'm going to bring up your pain. That's right when I moved here. That was 2015, I want to say, when MTSU.
Yeah,
I was a sophomore in college.
They had a really good team too. MTSU.
Shout out Giddy Potts.
Team. Yeah, that was a really good team.
Reggie Upshaw, all those guys.
Well, we'll see what happens. The first 4 starts tonight. UMBC, one of those Cinderella teams, knocking off Virginia several years ago. UMBC versus Howard. Texas versus NC State in the first 4 tonight in Dayton, Ohio. Both of those games by the way, on True TV, in case you haven't watched True TV since last year's NCAA tournament. I don't know what channel that is. 615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on the NCAA tournament. But coming up next, I heard something that a former member of the Tennessee Titans said upon joining a new team. And I, quite frankly, want to know if this player is full of you-know-what. And we'll discuss that next. 615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And we are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home with the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service.
Hey, this is Derek Mason. If you've injured yourself in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. Even if your accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers. Insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible, or frankly, nothing at all. Law Tigers fight to get you the compensation you deserve and doesn't get paid until your case has been settled. They understand how much your bike and gear means to you, so they will help you get it all repaired or better yet, replaced. So call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS or visit lawtigers.com. Law Tigers is powered by Freeman and Fuson, and you can find them in Nashville, located at 2126 21st Street South. And don't forget, go to predatorsbike.com to enter to win a custom Nashville Predator Indian motorcycle signed by the entire team, courtesy of Law Tigers in Music City, Indiana. That's Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David James here with you. Trevor Maddich will join us in roughly 20 minutes for his weekly chat. Unfortunately, we will not be joined by Predators GM Barry Trotz at 5 o'clock. The GM meetings are going on right now. That's where Trotz is. We hope to be joined by Barry Trotz later this week. And if we are, he will be presented by Green Ventures Landscaping and Gary Force Acura. But at 5 o'clock, we will talk about the Predators. And I have an idea for the Predators that I absolutely know Willie and Derek are going to hate. I know it. I can feel it in my bones. I know they're going to hate it. They do not know what it is, and I will tell them at 5 o'clock.
I am so excited for this.
I wonder what it is.
We'll find out together. Well, I already know.
Yes.
You guys will find out together. So, Chig Okonkwo is no longer a member of the Tennessee Titans. He signed with the Washington Commanders in free agency. And y'all know how this works. When a player leaves one team and goes to another, and he does his news conference and makes the rounds on podcasts and radio shows and stuff, that player is going to talk about how excited he is for his new opportunity and all of that stuff. So Chig Okonkwo did just that with the Washington Commanders. I believe this was on a Commanders-produced podcast. And I saw this clip on social media. It's about 45 seconds. What the hell? I'll play it. And when I heard it, I had this sort of like weird visceral reaction to it. Let's hear what Chig Okonkwo had to say upon joining the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, I feel like for me, there's just so much more. There's just so much more I'm able to do. That's why one of the things here coming here too, they're seeing the how the offensive leaders of this team just like they see the role that they see me playing. I'm just so excited, bro, to just know like I'm gonna be a featured guy from the first week. Wow. I can't even imagine like what my numbers would look like if I was getting real targets from week one, where I was running real routes from week one. I'm telling y'all, bro, the potential, like I'm excited, bro.
I can see the chip on your shoulder right now.
I'm excited, bro. I'm excited to finally show exactly what Chig Okonkwo is supposed to look like on a football field for a whole season.
He's excited to finally show exactly what Chig Okonkwo is supposed to look like on a football field. And I thought, didn't you get that opportunity for 4 years? Am I missing something here, Derek Mason?
Yes. And it's not like, it's something that I think a lot of people may just overlook in a sense of, the team was bad. And because the team was bad, he didn't get opportunities, just like a lot of other guys didn't, get opportunities that they felt they would have gotten. When you're a bad team, and listen, I've been on a few, not a lot, a few. And sometimes you could be on a bad team and it's not necessarily, and your numbers may not look a certain way, but it's not necessarily you. It's things around you, circumstances around you, and that go for any player. And then you see them either the next following season with that team, they end up, the team gets better and then their numbers or whatnot get better, or they go to another team and their number with more stability and their numbers get better. I think Chig is one of those guys, is that he suffered from not really having that quarterback. And some, I would say a few other guys probably did as well. We didn't see, I don't think, the true essence of who those players could have been. And I think that him going to another team, I think had he stayed here, he would have done great. But he's going to get an opportunity now that I don't think he necessarily was getting with the Titans, because there were times where they just didn't target him. They didn't look his way. You would look up and he had 2-3 targets. And I've said this about Chig. Is he the greatest tight end? No. Is he a top 10 tight end in this league? No, not yet. But this guy can make plays for you. He was the best over the last 2 years. He was the best run after catch guy on your team. And I would say every week, how are they going to get Chig involved? Now, again, his first couple of years, Chig was figuring out the NFL, dropping balls. But I think he worked on his game, his craft. And I think he got better. But there were times where it was like, how are y'all going to use Chig? Like seriously, he's probably the most versatile guy other than Tajay Spears that y'all have. How are y'all going to use him? And it was like every week they couldn't figure out how to do it. So when Chig says that, I don't think anybody can sit here and say, well, he's lying. Because if you watch this team, you say but when he did get the chance, at least last year, he made do. He was the best pass catcher they had.
I see it like this, Willie. I hear what Derek is saying, that the team was bad when Chig was here, so that limited his ceiling. And he thinks that with a healthy Jaden Daniels at quarterback, maybe a different system in Washington, I don't know exactly how often the Commanders use their tight ends, he'll flourish. But he averaged 75.3 targets per season over his final 3 years. So to me, that says you did get opportunity. He wasn't being targeted 100 times or 120 times, but he was targeted 75 times roughly per season over the past 3 years. That's opportunity, at least it is to me. So that's how I see it. I see it as Chig did get an opportunity. He did play for a bad team, but he did get an opportunity. I'm not sure exactly where he's coming from.
Yeah, I think I side a little bit more with you on this. I'm with you. I think Chig showed what. Hey, look, I don't blame him for saying I think I can be better, and I think I will. The grass is greener on the other side. Washington clearly recruited him and told him, hey, you're going to be more of a main guy, but it's going to be up to him to show that he's something more than he's been for 4 years. And I'm with you. I think they were desperate for guys to emerge as playmakers. Now, was he supported by a great threat on the outside? No, not at all. And did he have to deal with a lot of either young quarterbacks, inexperienced quarterbacks, injured quarterbacks? He had it all in the 4 years. But like you said, it's not like they never looked for him. 75 targets, I think, would rank. I don't know where that would rank over the last 3 years of targets for tight ends. But I think we saw what he is. He's a gifted guy that absolutely can make a big play out of a short gain. He is one of the better run-after-catch tight ends in the game. But I also think he's got flaws in his game as well. I don't think he's got the best hands. He's not a great blocker. So if you're not a great blocking tight end, you have to be a great pass-catching tight end to get the kind of numbers that I think he's envisioning when he says what he's going to be. But time is going to bear that out. That's the beauty of it.
One texter says, he was my number one target on Madden, LOL. Another texter said, did he learn how to block recently? Bob in Mount Juliet says, is this Chig saying that Cam Ward isn't that good?
No, it has nothing to do with Cam Ward.
I would agree with
that.
It was
the offense that they were in. Cam was only his quarterback for a year. So it had nothing to do with Cam. I look at like guys, and I'm only saying these guys because they've come through, either Titans drafted them, or they played for the Titans. And it seems like they all are similar. All four of them, well, three of them, they're similar. I look at Jonnu Smith, and Jonnu, when he was here, he showed big play ability. He showed flashes here and there. We wanted him to be more consistent, but he showed flashes. And that last season, he had a good season. But then he goes somewhere else. He goes to New England. It really doesn't work out there. And then he finally goes somewhere where they're going to target him, and he shows out. Then he goes to Pittsburgh, and you know what Pittsburgh is dealing with. I mean, their whole passing game is shoddy. And then I look at somebody like Delanie Walker. Delanie Walker spent, 6 years in San Fran. He wasn't the main guy. He wasn't. And I'm sure there were people that said, man, why did y'all sign this guy? Well, when he started to become more of a focal point of the offense in 2013, he had 86 targets. In 2014, he had 108, 133, then 102, 111. when he became more a part of the offense because they saw what he can do. Now, he's a much better blocker than Chig, but they saw what he could do. So what did they do? They fed him more and more. He became a playmaker. They didn't just say, well, he dropped his pass here. No. He proved that he's a playmaker. So they kept going to him play after play. He became the Titans' #1 option, and he deserved it. They would have never said this when he was in San Francisco, that he would ever have the seasons that he had his 4 best years. He had 4 of his best years with the Titans. But I'm sure when San Fran let him go, they probably was thinking, we got Vernon, he can go somewhere else, and he came here and he performed because they made him a focal point. I'm guarantee you they told him, we're going to make you a focal point in this offense. And they did that, and he flourished. If Washington is telling Chigakonkwo they're going to make him a focal point, so he's going to get the opportunities. And in that offense, the way it's ran, the numbers, I believe, if he stays healthy, the numbers are going to be there. They're going to justify the signing. He's going to have the numbers because he has the quarterback. He has another wide receiver on the other side. They got a good run game. So his numbers are going to improve. That's if he stays healthy.
Willie, I couldn't find where 75 targets over the past 3 seasons average ranks in the NFL, but his 226 targets total over the past 3 seasons ranks 16th in the NFL at the tight end position.
Okay, so middle of the road. I think it would be interesting. I would find it hard to believe that Washington is setting their whole offense around Chigakonkwo. It would seem to me that that's not a recipe for high-end success. He could completely prove me wrong. I think if I'm signing him, I'm hoping that he's a good complement to an entire offense. It's all role definition. But can you win if he's the main guy, like the featured guy, like he's kind of intimating he's going to be? I mean, Terry McLaurin, some of these other guys they have. And I think the biggest key to their offense, of course, is going to be Jaden Daniels. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's where Chig is thinking, look, now I've got a first-rate quarterback that I think is going to be an upgrade, so that should upgrade my numbers. I can see that.
But he's not. Now, when he says, I don't know if they're going to center the offense around him, but making him a focal point doesn't mean they're going to center things around. Like, he's the sole guy, and we're going to play off of him. They're just going to show him attention. Let's just say that. They're going to show him attention out there. They're going to give him an opportunity to show that he can play. They're not going to, give him 3 balls one week and then none the next, or target him 5 one week and 1 the next, unless he proves that he's not worthy of those targets. But if he proves that he's worthy of those targets in his offense, he's going to get those targets, and he's not going to take targets away from Terry McLaurin.
I admittedly, it would have been, I guess, the summer of 2023, following Chigakonkwo's first season in Tennessee. I was all aboard the Chig train. I thought that he was effective in a limited role in his rookie season. As a big fantasy football player, I'm like, I'm going to stack Chigakonkwo on my bench. He's going to be great. And nothing really ever came of it. I mean, last season was his career year, 560 receiving yards, which did make him the Tennessee Titans leading receiver. Yikes. With 2 touchdowns. He had 360 yards after the catch, to Derek's point. So I understand the idea that, hey, he played for a bad team. It severely limited his ceiling production-wise. And if he goes to a team with a better quarterback, albeit one coming off of an injury-plagued season, maybe he can reach new heights. But I don't think you can say that he didn't get an opportunity. He did get an opportunity, and yeah, some of it was working against him. But
opportunities, they're relative, because again, I look at football a little bit different, because the targets were not there, I don't believe, early in the season. it wasn't until like the second half, and that's when everything started to come on. It wasn't until the second half, I believe, that he really started to pick up, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong,
I got you. I'm
apologize
looking
for
it up.
Yeah. But it seemed like the more Cam got comfortable with the offense, once they changed coaches, once they got into a little rhythm offensively, it seems like he benefited from that. That's what it looked like to me. So yeah, he had 70 some targets, but when were those targets? Like that is sort of the nuance, within
His
sort of the
top
numbers.
2 targeted games this season were week 16 against Kansas City and week 17 against New Orleans.
Exactly. So as the team, or as the quarterback got more comfortable, he started to gain more confidence in Chigakonkwo. And the new head coach and the new OC said, you know what? We're going to throw him the football because, frankly, he's all we got that can make a play, and he's making plays for us. And also the other problem with Chig here is that, frankly, he just wasn't a blocker. I'm not going to say he wasn't a willing blocker, because I know he didn't go out there and just lay down. But in this type of offense, the way they wanted him to block. They wanted him to be out there and block. And had he shown to be a more than capable blocker, then they would have kept him out there. Washington they already know what they got. So the packages, they're going to center it around him, and they're going to show him attention.
615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on Chigakonkwo, saying he's excited to finally show exactly what Chigakonkwo was supposed to look like on a football field with the Washington Commanders. 615-737-1025. Trevor Maddich will join us coming up next. We'll get into the Titans and the NFL draft with our friend Trevor Maddich. On the other side, 615-737-1025. If you need a bracket to fill out for the NCAA men's tournament, you can head to theGameNashville.com/mayhem and print off your bracket today. Presented by Toyota. Fuel your adrenaline at Toyota.com. Let's go places. Also brought to you by Maple Street Biscuit Company and Nelson's Greenbrier Distillery. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Let's go to our phone line, driven by Wilson County, Hyundai.com, and welcome in our friend Trevor Matich, who is brought to you by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. Trevor, how are you feeling about your Cougars entering the NCAA basketball tournament this week?
I'm feeling good, actually, Adam, with AJ DeBonsa and the high-end elite talent that they've got with him, and then really good talent around him. Now, their top point guard and three-point shooter was hurt several weeks ago, so they're missing a key component there. But they've got the base team to be able to remain competitive and play scrappy defense with a couple of guys led by DeBonsa who are high-end lottery pick type guys, and I think they've got a good chance to hang with most of the teams that they'll face.
DeBonsa is one hell of a player. So let's talk about the Tennessee Titans. At the moment, Trevor, it appears that Austin Schlottmann will be the team's starting center. He doesn't have a lot of starting experience. He's played 85 games in the NFL, but he has started 18 over 7 seasons in the NFL. From what you know of Schlottmann, do you think he is a capable starting center over a full NFL season?
I think, Adam, that he is an enormous upgrade over what they would have had with Lloyd Cushenberry now not on the team. He really would have been the answer long-term as one of the best young centers in the league when they brought him in as a free agent out of Denver. But the injury bug bit, and that wasn't to be. So I think Schlottmann he brings to the table, I think, what they need right now with Cam Ward as a young quarterback and with the new offensive scheme of Brian Daboll, because he comes from the Giants. He knows Daboll's system from a standpoint of line calls and protection calls and recognition and things that you really want a veteran center to be able to contribute, especially when you have a young quarterback. Now, he's different in body style than Jeff Saturday of the Colts, who was the great center for Peyton Manning all those years. But from a standpoint of experience in the league and understanding of the offense, he brings that kind of knowledge. Now, is he an elite athlete? Does he have elite strength? Not necessarily. I don't know that they expect him to be a long-term starter, but I think that for now, he elevates that position tremendously mentally and physically, based on what they would have had they not brought him in. So, I have high hopes that he will perform at a steady level physically and an elite level mentally.
Trevor, the Titans' defensive line has undergone a significant transformation over the past few weeks. T'Vondre Sweat traded to New York for Jermaine Johnson. The Titans also made a trade for Solomon Thomas, who once upon a time was the 3rd overall pick in the 2017 NFL draft. They bring in John Franklin Myers. As a whole, how improved do you think the Titans pass rush is right now?
I think it's tremendously improved, mostly because of the scheme fit that these guys are for what Robert Saleh and this scheme expects of them. And I think that what they've done on the defensive line is a microcosm of the overall strategy, the plan for free agency and how the free agency leads into the draft for them. I mean, they were in desperate need of upgrading the defensive line beyond Jeffrey Simmons, and especially the pass rush, and especially on the edge. But the reason these guys are great for this scheme is because they are explosive off the ball. And if you take a look at Solomon Thomas, for example, they traded for him from the Cowboys. They just basically swapped 7th-round picks. The Cowboys were not going to keep Solomon Thomas. He didn't have any sacks last year. But does that mean that he's a bust? Not necessarily, because he'll be asked to do something completely different than he was asked to do last year in Dallas. Dallas basically had him play inside most of the time and be a run stuffer and eat up blockers so the linebackers could run around and make plays. That's why he didn't have any sacks. But that wastes Solomon Thomas's great physical advantage, which is he's really fast off the ball and he's got heavy, accurate hands to knock down the initial strike of an offensive lineman. And the defense of Robert Saleh requires that of defensive linemen. He doesn't want them just to eat up blocks around the line of scrimmage and let the linebackers make the plays. He wants the defensive line to be violent upfield, to penetrate gaps and let the linebackers clean up any messes if they get out of their gap a little bit while they're penetrating. It kind of inverts what Dallas was doing and what Solomon Thomas was asked to do there. And so when you've got his greatest capability now being maximized in the Robert Saleh scheme, you have the same thing with Jermaine Johnson, the edge rusher that they traded Tavondre Sweat to the Jets for. He's the same kind of guy because he has a really quick burst off the ball. Femi Oladeji, who they drafted as a linebacker out of UCLA, and they're going to put his hand in the dirt now. He has a really quick burst and a really high motor. So there's bringing in guys to stack in rotation on the defensive line to fit this violent, penetrating defensive line scheme. Now what they'll need is to make sure they've got the linebackers behind them to clean up, because when you penetrate defensive linemen like that, a lot of times they'll kind of get washed out of their gap, and it's up to the linebacker behind them to fill in and make sure those gaps don't turn into holes. And Cedric Gray seems to be a good match for that. But that's one of the reasons I think that either Arvell Reese or Sonny Styles, the linebackers out of Ohio State, would be possible draft picks at number 4, because they're kind of Fred Warner types that can make that transition from linebackers making all the plays to linebackers cleaning up messes that are caused when the defensive line tries to make messes in the backfield. So I love what they've done here with the defensive line. Now, are they elite? No, but it is an enormous upgrade of maximizing the capabilities of guys that now they have some depth at getting upfield. And in doing that, what they do, and they've done this in other positions too, you've seen it at corner, you've seen it at wide receiver. What they've done is kind of free up needs and to allow them to pick a game breaker on offense with the 4th pick or a game wrecker on defense with the 4th pick, because they've kind of solidified the foundation of the team underneath them in free agency.
Speaking of defensive linemen, Trevor, we're talking with Trevor Maddich, ESPN analyst for both college football and the NFL. Now, at the beginning of this whole process, Trevor, Ruben Bain was the name that was on everybody's lips as far as what he did during the season, especially that run that Miami had to the national championship game. But it seems like now that things have died down after the combine, that he's starting to fall, it seems, a little bit. Now, if he manages to fall outside of the top 10, which position do you think that benefits?
I think right now, when you look at the players that are available, are you talking about for the Titans at number 4?
Yeah, for the Titans at number 4, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I think this is where we talk about having at number 4, picking either a game breaker on offense or a game wrecker on defense. I think Ruben Bain was a game wrecker at the University of Miami, but you guys have really done a great job of describing how players that were great pass rushers in college but had the kind of short arms that Ruben Bain has don't tend to translate very well to the NFL. Some probably do, and Bain might, but overall, the odds are not good. And so, so is he going to be a game wrecker in the NFL? I don't know. He might be, but the guys that we've kind of talked about in that position at number 4 now, when you're looking at, Reese and Styles, the linebackers, and then Jeremiah Love at running back, those guys are, I think it opens up the Titans to be able to take the most impactful player at number 4, regardless of position of need. And again, this goes back to free agency and some trades that they made to kind of solidify the foundation of the team. I don't think they brought in game wreckers and game breakers on defense and on offense in free agency, but they have solidified the foundation. And so, Derek, you were the first one I heard talking about with a lot of confidence and a lot of passion, the running back out of Notre Dame, Jeremiah Love, as a potential pick for the Titans at number 4. And forgive me if the other guys have brought that up too early, but I know that when you started talking about that, I started thinking about it, and I think he might be the most impactful individual player in this entire draft. And so, taking care of the pass rush to a degree, the corners to a degree, bringing in Wan'Dale Robinson at receiver, taking care of that to a degree, would allow them to take a guy like Love. And the thing about Love is you've got to think about him as like a Saquon Barkley type. You don't want to hand him the ball 22 times and have him run between the tackles. You're just getting beat up. He'll run between the tackles well, but this Brian Daboll running scheme features a lot of outside zone, which means his vision and his speed and burst can get away from the D line and burst through those holes. And now he's dealing with outside linebackers, safeties, and corners out there on the edge. You can hand him the ball a lot there and not worry about him getting too beat up. And then you can move him all across the formation as a receiver because he's an outstanding receiver as well. And his 40 time was in the 4.3s at the combine. So this is what we mean when we talk about game breakers, a guy that an offensive coordinator can move all over the field to get the best possible matchup for Cam Ward, to give Ward the best advantage, not just to be able to complete a pass or hand it off into a good situation from the defensive front perspective, but also a guy who can make a lot of plays on his own, because the last few years here at the Titans fans have not been accustomed to seeing a lot of guys on offense that could take the ball and then do something with it that is not really there, to run over a guy, to run around the guy, to run past the guy. Derrick Henry was the guy that could do that, but when he went off to the Ravens, that was it. And so Jeremiah Love is the kind of player that will complement this offense in every way imaginable. And I tell you, if they took him at number 4, they will have fulfilled that concept of getting an absolute game breaker regardless of need of position.
Do we have Willie? There
Titans,
we go. There we go, Willie.
The Titans saved some money by releasing L'Jarius Sneed. They also saved some money reshuffling Calvin Ridley's contract. So they still have some money in the budget here, but the big wave of free agency is gone so far. What would you be looking for, and how much do you think a team can improve on the margins between now and the start of the season with some some funds that maybe some other teams don't have?
Yeah, Willie, that's a great point, because when you talk about the margins, that's really one of the key places that you win. You get to Super Bowls and win them, is at the margins. I mean, look at the Patriots under Tom Brady. When you look at Brady and his greatness, they had a couple of usually great receivers for him. They had some all-pros on defense, but ultimately those Patriots beat you, not necessarily with their big stars, although the big stars were important. They beat you with the middle and the bottom of the roster. With their depth pieces, when starters got hurt, they could come in and perform at a high level, but especially those core special teamers. The hidden yardage in special teams is at the bottom of the roster and the middle of the roster. And that's why it was so important they've got Julius Chestnut back, because Chestnut is a running back, but he's a core special teamer on this team. And so the guys they want to bring in now, I think that they're most likely to get aren't necessarily high-end starters, although there may be some of that available. But then if they can scout correctly and bring in more core special teamers, more key backups that can perform at a high level, then it elevates them in ways that are not obvious on the stat sheet. And so, what I'd be looking for if I'm as a Titans fan, for them would be, am I bringing in guys that are aging veterans at the end of their career to try to squeeze another great year or two out of them? Or am I bringing in guys that can win on the margins the way the Patriots did, with the bottom 10 guys on the roster are better than your bottom 10 on the roster, but those are key special teams.
Trevor Matich has been our guest on D-Mace, Vingan and Donick. He joins us every Tuesday and is brought to you by Houston Clinic Orthopedics. When experience matters. Trevor, as always, great stuff. Good luck to your Cougars in the NCAA tournament, and we'll catch up next week.
Thanks, Ed.
615-737-1025. Let us react to what Trevor had to say he did bring up a player that I believe that the Tennessee Titans, under no circumstances, can draft at number 4 overall. And we will discuss that coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Always a pleasure to catch up with Trevor Maddich. By the way, all of our NFL offseason coverage is presented by Tennessee Brew Works. Raise a glass with Tennessee Brew Works, proud partner, and official craft beer of the football offseason coverage right here on 1025 The Game. So in our conversation with Trevor Maddich, Willie and Derek, Ruben Bain's name popped up.
Mm-hmm.
And if there is one player who I believe the Titans cannot draft at number 4 under any circumstances, it's Ruben Bain. And I keep going back to the short arms. As you hear at the top of every hour, I am a nerd and I like to look at the numbers. And I know some of you out there, some of you ball knowers out there might be yelling at me because I haven't grinded the film of Ruben Bain. And you know what? Ruben Bain may end up breaking the mold and being the greatest short-armed pass rusher the NFL has ever seen. But I look at the data, and the data tells me that it is more likely than not that Ruben Bain does not live up to the hype. Hear this, gentlemen, from Pro Football Focus, who did the hard work for me. Quote, when you dip below 31 inches, things start to look much more bleak. Kyle Van Noy is the only proven success story among this group. Of the 64 sacks these short-armed edge defenders have recorded in the PFF era, Van Noy accounts for over half of them. It's worth noting that Van Noy's arms measured almost a full inch longer than Ruben Bain's. PFF continues. The remainder of this group hardly inspires confidence. The only other sub-31-inch edge defender to even see 500 career pass rush snaps in the PFF era are Jannard Avery and Matt Longanker.
Who are those guys?
Precisely. If Bain were to move inside, he'd be compared to a similarly unremarkable group headlined by players like Dean Lowry and Kalijah Cansey. And I don't pretend to be the biggest football ball knower there is, but I don't know who any of those players are, with the exception of Kyle Van Noy, who has won the Super Bowl a couple of times. He had a career-high 12.5 sacks in 2024. He's bounced around the league. He's been in the league for 12 years. He's a fine player. But I don't want Kyle Van Noy with the number 4 overall pick. So, Willie, Derek, I am putting my foot down. Under zero circumstances can the Tennessee Titans draft Ruben Bain with the number 4 overall pick. I will not allow it. Your thoughts?
I mean, listen, would it be, I think now, see, this is what happens. And again, Van Noy is a good player. It was the other guys that I never heard of in my life.
And if you haven't heard of them, Derek Mason, then I don't know what they've amounted to in the NFL.
They could have been okay players. I don't know. But I think what happens is before the draft, before the combine, there's this big rush. It's just like, okay, what was the last thing we saw, and how good was that last thing we saw? So that is going to be on the forefront of our mind. The best thing that we saw was Mendoza and Bain in the championship game. So we automatically went to, man, Mendoza, we know he's going to be the number 1 pick.
Yes.
And now Bain, we can get him as Titans. Look at great out here, because that's what we last saw. We didn't last see Styles and those guys, even though they played, around before that.
And David Bailey.
Exactly. We didn't see those guys because they lost early. The last 2 guys that we saw was Bain and Mendoza. One's going to be the number 1 pick, and at that point, we thought Bain may be the 3rd pick in the draft. And if he's not the 3rd, then yes, because the Titans can get him. And then reality starts to kick in. And you know what he kicked in? In Indianapolis. That's when reality kicked in for everybody. And they said, you know what? Still a good player, but he has tremendous limitations. And those limitations are his arms. And people may see it as it doesn't matter. Yes, it does in this league. It does matter. Not to say that Bain, I think because of his high motor, he's a football player. He's a relentless guy. He's going to be a good player. But good And like Trevor said, game-changing individuals, like those type of guys. Is that what Bain is? Because he has to be that if you're drafting him number 4. And do you think he's that guy?
By the way, Willie, for what it's worth, Mel Kiper in his latest mock draft published on ESPN.com earlier has the Kansas City Chiefs taking Ruben Bain with the 9th overall pick. But I know it's not all about the spreadsheets and the fancy stats, but I've read enough research to know that Ruben Bain would be an incredible exception to the rule if he succeeds at a high level at his position in the NFL because of his short arms.
I think the data speaks for itself. I will say, and this is where you get into a discussion of how special are his other traits to make up for it, because for a while, and still, even if he goes to the Chiefs believe that it's not going to be an issue, that because there are the UC Saroses out there, the Dustin Pedroias, the Mookie Bettses, the guys who are not supposed to be big enough to do what they're doing, or they have some kind of shortcoming that would tell you that this guy can't be successful, and yet they are extremely successful. But usually you're not using the 4th pick or the 9th pick on a guy like that in the draft, right? Usually those guys fall down. So I guess my question would be, why did people have Bain rated so high? It's not like his arms shrunk but while he was putting on a show in the college football playoff. Why was everybody raving about him so much? Didn't they know about the arms?
They probably didn't, and his arms look long in the game.
So apparently they look longer than they are.
Exactly. He was getting to the quarterback. That's all that mattered.
Or just, I guess Trevor did a good job a few weeks ago when we asked him about this, talking about how in college you can overcome it a lot easier than you can in the NFL, because the NFL is a different game.
Absolutely. So, listen, do I think that he's a top 10 player? Yeah. But I think when you, and maybe the Titans, if they drafted him, maybe it wouldn't be, because you got to understand, you're drafting him and they would be putting him on a defensive line that is anchored by Jeffrey Simmons. And they just went and got, through free agency, the 3rd best guy to put pressure on the quarterback in the NFL from that position. What's his name? I forget his name again. What's the defensive tackle Titans just signed?
Jermaine Johnson?
Yeah. No, not Jermaine Johnson. With Denver. He was
the other
Denver.
guy from the
John
Jets.
Franklin Myers.
Yeah, John Franklin Myers.
From the Broncos.
So, exactly. Yeah. John Franklin Myers. So they got John Franklin Myers and they have Jeffrey Simmons. So putting him on a line with those guys and a Johnson on the other side, it may not be, he may be able to overcome those limitations, because I'm sure if you're in a position like that, you're going to put him on the left tackle, meaning the right tackle and not the left tackle.
615-737-1025. I decree that the Tennessee Titans, under no circumstances, can draft Ruben Bain with the 4th overall pick. So if you're listening, Mike Borgonzi, sorry about your damn luck. If you wanted to draft Ruben Bain, I will not allow it. I can't get over the short arms. I can't do it. Matthew in Nashville says, who is saying the Titans are going to draft Bain, guessing some of these mock drafts from the so-called experts? I haven't seen a mock draft recently, with the Titans taking Ruben Bain, but he's in that range.
What we have seen? We've seen a lot more mock drafts starting to feel
people
the love
all
train.
over the world. Yeah. Join hands. Start a love train. It's Derek Mason was the conductor of the Jeremiah Love train in Nashville, Tennessee. If the Titans draft Jeremiah Love, I am going to buy you a conductor hat and sew a heart on it.
I like it.
And you can wear it the day after they draft Jeremiah Love with the 4th overall pick. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, we will not be joined by Barry Trotz today. He is at the GM meetings. And by the way, Barry Trotz, when he does join us, is presented by Green Ventures Landscaping and Gary Force Acura. But we will talk Predators coming up next, because there is a critical game tonight again. A lot of critical games for the Predators, but a critical game tonight in Winnipeg, where Willie is freezing his butt off. We will preview that game. But I have an idea that I think the Predators should consider, that I know that Willie Donick and Derek Mason are absolutely going to hate. I know it, and I can't wait to hear their reactions coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
All right, let's tell you about Loan Pronto. Stop letting high interest debt weigh you down. Pay it all off in days with Loan Pronto's Rapid Equity Loan. It's a completely hassle-free way to cash out your home equity with no appraisals, no paperwork, and no waiting. Loan Pronto's Rapid Equity Loan uses AI-driven tech to get you approved for cash out in as little as 1 day with a rate that's at a 3-year low. One client got $100,000 approved in under 24 hours, wiped out all the credit cards, started a home improvement project, and cut their monthly expenses by $1,500. So call Loan Pronto now and see how much cash you can get. No hard credit pull up front. Imagine this time next week, you could be credit card debt free. Loan Pronto is A+ rated by the BBB with nearly 2,800 5-star Google reviews. Call 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. That's 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781 on approved credit, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. We hope you are having a stress-free start to your commute home on this cold Tuesday. We really can't talk because Willie's in Winnipeg where it's 10 degrees probably. It's snowing. And Willie Donick will finally return home after the Predators face the Winnipeg Jets tonight. Puck drop at 7, pregame at 6 with Chase McCabe right here on 102.5 The Game. I don't like using the term must-win game unless it's a playoff elimination game or you have to win to make it into the playoffs. But the Predators are veering into it's probably better if you win game territory. If the Predators were to lose tonight in regulation to the Winnipeg Jets, they would fall 1 point behind the Winnipeg Jets in the Western Conference standings. The Predators are at 67 points, the Jets at 66. The Predators are 4 points behind the Seattle Kraken for the final playoff spot in the Western Conference with 16 games left on the schedule. So let's just reset this road trip quickly. The Predators started this road trip with a loss in Buffalo, 3-2. Then they went out west, won a big game in Seattle, 4-2. A really tough loss that could come back to bite the Predators in the butt. A 4-3 shootout loss to the league worst Vancouver Canucks. The Predators led that game by 2 goals late, blew the lead, lost in a shootout. And the other night in Edmonton, the Predators lost 3-1 to the Oilers. So the Predators on this road trip, 1, 2, and 1 before taking on the Jets tonight. Willie, set the scene for us in Winnipeg. How are the Predators feeling?
I think they know the urgency. This has been a really long road trip.
Indeed.
From a, days between games on the road, you really feel like you've been away from home forever, which you have. Sometimes it can go faster if you have more games, but that has not been the case here. They know the urgency. They know the situation. They seemed, they're right in every game. They're just not finding ways to win the close games. They're killing themselves with slow starts. They're putting themselves behind the 8 ball almost every night. And yet they've still had chances to win all of the games in this recent stretch. That being said, I agree with you. It's as close to must win if you're talking playoffs, just because of the number of teams that are in this mix. I would say tonight and Thursday are essential if you want to stay with the pack and feel like you're still in it and not have to win basically every game down the stretch. The beauty of the situation is if you win, if you do well, you're in it. And if you don't, you're talking, because of the state of the Western Conference, you're talking about a top 5, top 6 type of chance at the lottery pick. So, it's almost like a no-lose situation to me. But I know how much the veterans on this team want badly to grab that last playoff spot. They have a lot of pride in how they have fought their way back into the race after being so far down. They were absolutely at the bottom. And so they want to see it through, but we'll see how it unfolds tonight. This is a huge one.
By the way, some Predators adjacent news today. The Edmonton Oilers announced that Leon Draisaitl will miss the remainder of the regular season because of the injury he suffered on the hit from Ozzy Weisblatt the other night. So Leon Draisaitl out for the remainder of the regular season, which is tough news for the Edmonton Oilers. So we'll see how they respond to that. But Willie, I am glad that you brought up the draft lottery, because I have an idea that, well, after hearing you, Willie, maybe you won't hate it as much as I think you will. But when I came up with this today, with some help, not directly, from our friend Elliot Friedman, I thought to myself, Willie and Derek are absolutely going to just hate this. So here it is. Let me explain what Elliot said on 32 Thoughts, the podcast, and then it'll make sense in just a moment. So Elliott was talking about the Florida Panthers. The Florida Panthers are projected to miss the playoffs. They are 12 points out with 16 games left. The Panthers are going to miss the playoffs after 3 consecutive trips to the Stanley Cup final and 2 consecutive championships. And it's been a tough season injury-wise in Florida. Alexander Barkov hasn't played all season. Matthew Tkachuk missed a big chunk of time. Seth Jones has been out, although I do believe he is returning to the lineup tonight for the Panthers. But the Panthers have missed a lot of big-name players this season. And look, when you make 3 consecutive trips to the Cup final, eventually it's going to catch up to you. I'm not surprised that the Panthers have faded here. And Elliot Freeman said he was talking to somebody in the NHL about the Panthers. And that person said, keep your eye on the Panthers because as the season nears its conclusion, they may load manage in an attempt to improve their draft lottery odds. So this is my suggestion to the Nashville Predators. They have 16 games left in the season. They have 4 games this week. Tell me if I have them in the right order, Willie. Tonight in Winnipeg, Thursday at home against Seattle, Saturday at home against Vegas, Sunday on the road against Chicago, correct?
Yep.
4 games left. The Predators are 4 points out of the playoffs right now. If the Predators wake up on Monday morning with a larger gap in the standings than they have right now, they are 4 points out right now. If they wake up on Monday morning and let's say they're 6 points out, 7 points out, the Predators should load manage the rest of the season and do the same thing that Elliott and whoever he was talking to were talking about the Panthers. I think if the Predators are 6, 7, 8 points out of the playoffs by this time next week, if they have a really bad week, I say load manage the rest of the season with 12 games to go and improve those draft lottery odds. By the way, the Florida Panthers, 25th in the NHL in points right now. Right behind them, your Nashville Predators, who are only 6 points out of 30th in the NHL. That's my idea. Do you hate it as much as I thought you would, Derek Mason?
I don't hate it. I know I don't hate it. I dislike it. I don't hate it.
Not as strong. Okay.
Because I mean, listen, you're talking to a former athlete.
Yes.
That, you know, so when you say load management to not win games, that's essentially what you're saying. Tank it, but in a sort of not so obvious way.
A mini tank. Let's call it a mini tank at the end of the season.
That sort of, you know, thought just doesn't compute with me. It doesn't. And get it. I know teams do it. Whether it be basketball, hockey, baseball, it's do it in football at times. But it's just hard to, especially knowing like these guys and what they've been through this season, the ups and downs, and you know, them getting on a hot streak and then sort of falling off. So they've been fighting this whole way. It's to me, Willie, and this is only me, you know the team better than I do. It's hard to then tell those guys to, hey, we just gonna hold y'all back for a little. Y'all ain't gonna play as many minutes. We're gonna load manage. We're gonna let some of these younger guys. I know they're looking at the big picture, but it's hard for a load management of Forsberg or Stamkos, guys like that. How do you load manage those guys? O'Reilly, how do you load manage those guys? It's hard to do. So I don't hate it. I dislike it. But that's just, and listen, I don't know Florida's team, but a lot of guys you said are injured.
Yes.
So
the Panthers have been banged up all season.
The Predators are not in that situation. They're not they're not where they want to be, but they're not in that situation. So how do you feel about it, Willie?
Well, I would just say to Adam, I would love for you to walk into the locker room and present that to Ryan O'Reilly, Steven Stamkos, Philip Forsberg, Roman Josi, and just see how it flies. See how it goes.
You're going to get a skate thrown at you.
But it's not me who would be doing it.
Yes, it would be. That you're the one suggesting it.
But I want to be the one to enact the plan. It's not up to me.
He just telling the coach to enact the plan.
Well, look, anybody who's a competitor would scoff at the idea. I will say this. The Predators back in 2008 were 5 points out with 7 games to play and made it. So crazy stuff happens, especially when it's a spot that is going to be occupied by a team that's not that great. Whoever grabs that spot is going to be a pretty just better than average team, right? Not a really good or a great team. So right now it's the Sharks, it's the Kraken that are surging. I feel like there's going to be ups and downs for everybody during this stretch. But to do it after 4 games, Adam, I think would be like drawing a line that's too decisive. I think you could get to a point where you feel like you're out of it naturally. Like, you're right. You mentioned 5, 6, 7, or 8 points. There's a big difference between 5 points out and 8 points out, or 8 points out and 10 points out. So I think naturally they could get to a point where realistically it's not going to happen. But until that happens, I don't think you would go there. And in 4 games, they could go 0-4, and then you would be like, oh boy, this is, let's get real here. It's not going to happen. So I think this would take care of itself. And like I said before, you don't really need to load manage in order to finish in the top or in the bottom 5 or 6 if you're not going to make it, because of where they already sit in the standings.
I do think that the fact that the Predators are still in the mix for that final wild card spot in the Western Conference has clouded just how much they've struggled over the past couple of months. And I know that there's a big caveat in this because they didn't play basically in the month of February because of the Olympic break. But the Predators have won, if my math is correct, 6 of their past 19 games. They have lost 13 of 19, bridging the Olympic break. And
but you never, Adam. You have to throw in the overtime losses. Okay, be fair. You're making it. You're skewing the numbers. There's such thing as an overtime point, as you know. There's a bunch of those.
Yes, they have points in 11 of those 19
points count.
games.
Points are what it's about. Points.
My point is, speaking of points,
but what's their record?
6-8 and
They're
5
not
overall in that 19
that sounds
game
a lot
stretch.
better than 6 and 13. So there's a lot of overtime losses in there. They've lost what, 5 or 6 in a row that have gone to overtime.
That's not what I was attempting to argue. My point was that it speaks to just how mediocre a lot of the teams in this group are. That the Predators,
absolutely.
That the Predators,
I think
the
Kings
this
are
poorly, and they're still in the mix.
Right. I was going to use the Kings as an example. They've got one of the fewest totals of regulation wins of any team in the league. They've had like 25 overtime games.
I went to my favorite website, tankathon.com. It's been a minute since I pulled up tankathon.com. And tankathon.com tells me at this moment the Predators have 6.5% odds of winning the NHL draft lottery. And Willie, I hear your point, and you aren't wrong to suggest that with how things are in the standings, if the Predators continue to stumble, this may just happen to them versus my suggestion of them doing it to themselves. But I want to see how they do this week. Games against Winnipeg, Seattle, 2 huge games right there, a tough game in Vegas, on the road in Chicago. I want to see if they can gain any ground in the playoff race over this next week. But that was just my suggestion. I heard Elliot Friedman talk about it in relation to the Florida Panthers, and I said to myself, this is interesting. Steven from Hendersonville says, I'm with Adam. We need to act like we're in the movie The Internship and fake an injury. Forsberg, Stamkos, and O'Reilly need to take one for the team. Jeff says, this won't ever happen. Those vets are too competitive. The young guys are too energetic, and the roster construction is designed for the culture of the next generation. The Preds are likely to lose enough with max effort anyway. One texter says, I love Tankathon. I also love Tankathon. Tankathon's a great website. C from Franklin says, loser points are for losers.
Listen,
But loser points count.
You've
Look
been
at the Kings.
compromised.
How many overtime losses do they have? Like 13 or
The
something.
LA Kings are 28, 24, and 15 on the season.
15 overtime losses. Are you going to say those loser points don't count in the standings? Take away 15 points from the Kings?
I'm not arguing that. I was just telling you what the texter's saying.
This is the sport you play. This is hockey. This is not basketball or baseball where there's no tie. There's no tying point. You may not like it, but these are points.
615-737-1025. This is sort of a blanket question that doesn't necessarily relate to this specific question about the Predators. But am I nuts? Is my idea so incredibly far-fetched that if the Predators continue to lose ground in the playoff race this week, next week, when they have 12 games left, they should, quote-unquote, load manage the rest of the season and improve their draft lottery odds? 615-737-1025. The Predators are back in action tonight. Puck drop at 7, pregame at 6 against the Winnipeg Jets right here on 1025 The Game. Coming up next, there is discussion about expansion in the NBA. And a prominent voice in the NBA wonders about our fair city. We'll discuss that coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
Nashville
Mm-hmm.
is a growing city.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people love Nashville. Okay, and obviously they're a very successful city right now. They are a thriving city in the United States of America, and so when you look at them, I'm certainly not getting on and advocating that Memphis loses a team because I don't want that to happen to that city. But in the same breath, you wonder about Nashville, comparing that to Seattle and wondering what kind of possibilities may present itself in that regard. I don't think that will happen. Shams, you're right on the money in terms of Seattle and Las Vegas. But I have found myself thinking about Nashville quite often because you always hear Nashville's name coming up when people talk about surprise sleeper cities that everybody should be looking at these days.
That was Stephen A. Smith on First Take talking about Nashville. And if you're wondering why Stephen A. Smith was talking about Nashville, the news reported by ESPN yesterday that the NBA will hold a vote at the Board of Governors meetings next week to explore adding expansion teams exclusively in Las Vegas and Seattle, with the two new franchises being targeted to start play in the 2028-2029 season. And those two locations make sense. Las Vegas has been the hub for the NBA Summer League for a long time. And remember, guys, there was a moment not too long ago when the idea of professional sports in Las Vegas was preposterous. But the Golden Knights have been a smashing success. The Las Vegas Aces of the WNBA have been a smashing success. The Raiders, they're also there. And in Seattle, of course, there was a team, the Supersonics. Then the franchise relocated to Oklahoma City and became the Thunder. And in conversations about expansion in Major League Sports, Nashville is going to keep coming up. Remember, Nashville put in a bid for a WNBA franchise. We keep hearing Nashville as a potential market for Major League Baseball. But Stephen A. Smith, Derek Mason, floats out Nashville as a potential franchise location at some point. It's not going to be anytime soon, if it ever happens at all. But do you think it's as far-fetched as it sounds that Nashville could one day have an NBA team?
I don't think it's far-fetched, but like you said, it's going to take some years. They are in line with, they're behind a baseball team, a women's basketball team, and then the NBA. And the NBA has designated already where they're going to put their next few teams, Vegas and back in Seattle. They're going to put another team. And then eventually they're going to want to be in a market, I guess, like this. But again, it comes down to a few things. And we discussed this off air. Where would they be housed? Obviously, they're renovating Bridgestone. It's going to be beautiful. It's beautiful now, but it's going to be even more beautiful. Even if I can say that. Yeah, but so they're redoing that so they can house them in the arena that the Predators play in. They can do that. So if you're talking about location, I think that there's already a location there. Then you gotta, how much is the city gonna pay to get this team here? Because there's going to be a tax somehow, some way. There's going to be a tax. We're gonna have to foot some of the bill, So how does that look to people that they complain about the stadium that's being built, but it's being built? Then you're talking about bringing a baseball team. You have to build a baseball stadium. You're gonna be asking for more money. And then if you bring the women's basketball, so now the expansion they're doing on Bridgestone may need to be expanded even more.
But Willie, Derek's right there. It's a lot more complicated than just plopping a franchise down in Nashville. But the one hurdle, there are multiple, but the one major hurdle we keep hearing whenever we have the discussion about baseball in Nashville, where's the stadium going to be? You don't have that issue with an NBA team. You could theoretically just put this NBA team in Bridgestone Arena. We've seen Bridgestone Arena host the SEC men's basketball tournament for several years. And Bridgestone is a busy venue, but I have confidence in the people who work there that they could add another team and still get a lot of concerts and other events. There are, we counted this earlier, Derek, I believe 10 arenas that share an NBA and NHL team in Dallas, Los Angeles, New York, Washington, many others. So I think the not the Predators. I do think Bridgestone Arena could handle it. But whenever expansion talk comes up in sports, we should just be prepared that Nashville is probably always going to be mentioned.
And I think that's the only reason we're even talking about it is because Nashville is a great city. I don't know that there's any movement from Nashville to go after this, is there?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
So it's a hypothetical.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
But to say it will never happen, I don't think that is the case. But I think it's going to be some years before people even start, really talking about it. Nobody's even talking about it in that way. Now, the NBA may be discussing it behind closed, but there's not a real discussion like coming here and surveying everything and making a decision based on, polls you've taken or whatnot. That stuff is probably far from happening.
I do wonder, when I was putting together the show earlier, I was wondering, is Tennessee capable of supporting 2 NBA franchises? Now, David Janes, proud fan of the Memphis Grizzlies.
Stand up.
Yes, proud Memphian, proud fan of the Memphis Grizzlies. I sort of see Nashville and Memphis as 2 totally separate entities.
It is.
So, I know that they would both be in the state of Tennessee, but I mean, Memphis is in Tennessee, obviously, but I sort of consider Memphis its own thing. I don't think of Memphis and Nashville
together.
So I don't
It's not a marriage.
Right. I don't wonder if the state of Tennessee could support 2 NBA franchises. You, of course, have to wonder if there would be a desire for fans to have an NBA team. Mm-hmm. We talked about this with the WNBA and the WNBA being hotter than it's ever been, and that team playing in Bridgestone Arena. But I mean, I would love it. I would love a basketball team in Nashville.
I would too.
But it's a hypothetical at this point. But we keep hearing Nashville with baseball. Mm-hmm. So it was interesting to me, Derek, to hear Nashville with basketball, even if it's only coming out of the mouth of Stephen A. Smith. Mm-hmm. But Stephen A. Smith, say what you will about Stephen A. Smith, he's a heavy hitter. Yeah. So to hear him say it kind of caught my attention.
Listen, I think basketball will do extremely well here. I was listening to Chase and Big Joe, and they had a caller call in and just talked about, because there are so many people moving here and they don't talk basketball because we don't have basketball. We don't look at, not many people in Nashville look at Memphis as their team, So, but there are a lot of people that love basketball, I'm sure, and they just root for their teams, but they're here. I think if you were to bring a basketball team here, I think the city and everybody around it would support it. I really do. It's a venue where you're indoors, so you don't have to worry about the climate outside. You don't have to worry about, is it cold or not? You're gonna always be warm when you go in the building. Stuff like that. So when you talk baseball, people love baseball too, but which one do you think will garner more butts in the seats?
Between what?
Baseball and basketball.
That's a good question. Willie, what do you think?
It's a good question. I think you got to remember, if it's basketball, it's going head to head with all the college basketball and the hockey that's happening. So, I think our market is getting to the point where it's realistic. I think maybe 20 years ago you would have said, I don't know, but I think it could work. I think a lot of times you see basketball and hockey teams sharing a venue.
Yes.
But one is the main tenant and the other has to sort of take the secondary dates. I don't know how that would factor in. But could it work? Yeah. I think baseball could work too if you had the right venue for sure. So we'll have to play it out. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time thinking about it until I hear somebody in Nashville taking up the baton and saying, let's do it. I'm the person that's going to bring it in. I'm going to bring it to Nashville.
Let's do it, Willie. You and I.
First, the both of you have to end up.
Funds.
Yes. First, both of you have to end up on the notable alumni list for your respective schools.
We're working on that. We're working on
that. Step one. Once you do that, you can get on.
The sky's the limit after that.
By the way, there are 10 arenas that share NBA and NHL teams. Los Angeles, which once shared 3 teams, the Kings, Clippers, and Lakers, but now the Clippers have their own arena. So the Kings and the Lakers share an arena. Dallas shares the Stars and the Mavericks. Denver, Detroit, Washington, D.C., Toronto, Chicago, Philadelphia, Boston, and Madison Square Garden with the Rangers and Knicks. Those are the arenas that share NHL and NBA teams. One texter says, the Memphis Grizzlies are moving here when their lease ends.
Nope.
No, they ain't letting them.
Let's get into that part of it because that's a huge part of this is like, wouldn't Memphis do everything they could to rally and keep them from leaving?
I'm sure they will.
David would know more about this than the three of us. So what's the sitch? What's the sitch?
So from what I know they have renovations coming up for the FedEx Forum and for other like areas in Memphis, like Liberty Bowl and all that. So there's already renovations coming up. I know DeMichael Cole, who works for the, oh gosh, I forget what it was, but he's one of the reporters out there. He's talked about it. He's talked about how he doesn't see it likely. He's talked to Robert Pera and how they're trying to get all the renovations done to improve on everything else for the Grizzlies, and all that seems like it's going well. So it's all the city of Memphis is getting all that done. It's just Robert Pera, who is the owner of the Memphis Grizzlies, to be okay with all that stuff. And I think he will be because I don't know. I think it'll be fine once they do all the renovations.
Okay. Well, there is our Memphis Grizzlies relocation report, courtesy of David James. Caleb says that texter is delusional. The Grizzlies aren't going to Nashville.
No, I can't.
LOL.
I can't see.
Well, but it sounds like there's a little bit of leverage involved. There's a little bit of, hey, let's let everybody know that we could leave when the lease is up. So what are we going to do about it?
Yeah. Well, we'll find out. When is the lease up?
2027.
Okay.
Oh, right around the corner. There are no Grizzlies in Nashville.
There's no Grizzlies in Memphis.
That's true. I assume.
There was a picture of a grizzly.
There's Grizzlies at the Memphis Zoo.
Exactly.
Well, that makes it a Memphis Grizzly. So I just thought it was interesting to hear Stephen A. Smith. Okay, hold on. Sorry. One texter says, great. Let's get an NBA team so we can listen to Adam talk about that team needing to tank as well.
Oh, no.
Absolutely.
I was only suggesting a mini tank for the Predators starting next week. Not a full-blown tank, a mini tank.
Oh, my goodness.
That's a good one, Texas.
The Nashville Raccoons, they need to tank. They need to tank.
Listen,
the last
guys,
20 games, they need to tank, y'all.
I looked at the numbers, guys, and guess what? We need to tank.
I hope it's not the Raccoons. If Nashville gets an NBA team, I hope it's not the Raccoons. What was
Pray to God it's the Nashville Raccoons.
That sounds problematic.
The WNBA team was what? The Tennessee Summit, right? That's a cool name.
The Raccoons is a cool name.
No, it's not.
You're tying in Nashville
and T-Rack.
T-Rack, yes, to the Raccoons.
The Tennessee State.
Did T-Rack get a glow up at this Tennessee?
You
Titans
know what?
Event?
I don't think he, other than the jersey, I don't think he did.
I'm just saying he looks a little matted. He needs
I
a
don't think he did. You're
makeover.
right. If they're gonna rebrand and do all, then T-Rack needs to come back as a
Yeah.
different raccoon.
Right. He needs to come back jacked, and he needs to have some conditioner. I don't know.
He needs a glow up.
All right, we need to take a break. 615-737-1025. We'll wrap up the show next, talking about an NFL team who could use Derek Mason at wide receiver. We'll do that coming up next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
No. Hey, this is Derek Mason. If you injured yourself in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. Even if your accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers. Insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible, or frankly, nothing at all. But Law Tigers fights to get you the compensation you deserve and doesn't get paid until your case has been settled. Look, they know how much your bike gear is worth to you and what it means. So they will help you get it all repaired or better yet, replaced. So call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS or visit lawtigers.com. Law Tigers is powered by Freeman and Fusion. You can find them in Nashville, located at 2126 21st Street South. And don't forget, go to predatorsbike.com to enter to win a custom Nashville Predator Indian motorcycle signed by the entire team, courtesy of Law Tigers in Music City, India. That's Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Willie Donick off to prepare for the broadcast. The Predators' road trip finale against the Winnipeg Jets. Puck drop at 7, pregame at the top of the hour with Chase McCabe right here on 102.5 The Game. Derek Mason's been out of the game for a little while, but I know he can still go. And I do think there is a spot, if he wants it, on the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins made a big trade today, acquiring Jalen Waddle from the Miami Dolphins. According to Adam Schefter, the Broncos will receive Waddle as well as the Dolphins' 4th-round pick, while the Broncos will send their 1st-round pick, 30th overall, as well as 3rd and 4th-round picks to Miami. So the Dolphins embracing the tank. I saw something today that the Dolphins have more than $175 million of dead money this season, which is just incredible. But the Dolphins, I feel bad for Malik Willis. Malik Willis signs this big contract, and he's got no one to throw it to. Do you know who the number 1 receiver on the Dolphins depth chart is right now? Tutu Atwell.
Wow, that kid's been. It seems like he's
Tutu Atwell is the Dolphins' number 1 receiver at the moment. Obviously, the Dolphins are going to draft a receiver next month. Maybe Cardinal Tate. Who knows? Mekhi Levin, Jordan Tyson.
Yeah.
Who knows? But yes, Derek Mason, if you want to get back into the NFL, now's your chance.
Hey, I told you this weekend, since it's going to be nice weather out, 80 degrees, I'm going to go dust those cleats off, dust them off. And I'm going to go out to a football field near me. I got to find me a quarterback, though. And I'm going to run me a few routes. And I'm going to show Miami I still got it. Or you can show them I don't have it. But I'm going to show them one way or another. I'm going to run about 5 routes. Man, I may do the route tree depending on how my knees feel. If I can run the route tree, if I get somebody to throw it to me, I'm going to show Miami because, hell, they're making too much money now. Not really making too much money. I'm just saying they're making so much money. I can get back in.
You can. This is
and
your
Miami
chance.
They're desperate for receivers.
Yes.
I mean, they are so desperate that I'm working out. I'm running routes. That's how desperate they are.
According to ESPN, Tutu Atwell is atop the Dolphins depth chart at the position and is joined in the receivers room by Jalen Tolbert, Terrace Marshall Jr., Malik Washington, Taj Washington, Theo Weiss Jr., and A.J. Hennig.
Wow.
So, Derek Mason, you have a shot here, man.
These dudes probably total got 500 yards.
Tutu Atwell has been in the NFL.
I'm saying this past season.
Yes, Tutu Atwell has been in the NFL since 2021.
Okay.
He has played for... Well, he's only played for the Rams, actually. I feel like he's bounced around more than that.
Seems like he's been everywhere.
But he's been with the Rams for 4 seasons. Now he's with the Dolphins.
And he's a good receiver. He's a good receiver.
But
it's okay.
Y'all make fun of me for all of the tanking talk. The Miami Dolphins, they're doing it. This is tanking to the max with the Miami Dolphins. I do feel bad for Malik Willis because he signs the big deal. He's going to get a shot as a starting quarterback, and they're going to be so bad this season that the Dolphins are going to draft Arch Manning with the number 1 overall pick, and then he and Malik Willis will be battling it out in 2027. So
unless they draft a receiver and say a Tate or one of these other guys, and they come in and they just hit the ground running, man, it's just like, Malik, you're going to have to they're going to really see if you are the guy. They're going to really, if you can, with this cast of characters, again, you know, let's see, once they get in the season, it may turn out to be different. But as we sit now, this cast of characters, if Malik Willis can not even get this team to a playoff, get this team to win 6 games, I think that would be a plus, wouldn't you?
MVP.
If the Dolphins win 6 games with that roster, Malik Willis should receive MVP votes.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying. So Derek Mason, this is your opportunity
I
to
gotta
get back
oil these
into
knees
the
up.
game.
Ooh, yeah.
The other
Massage these
story,
things.
the other story that's just mind-boggling to me. Have you seen what's going on with Alabama star basketball player Aiden Holloway?
I heard about it.
Aiden Holloway. This from ESPN. Authorities found 2.1
wow.
pounds of marijuana in Aiden Holloway's apartment when he was arrested on a felony drug possession charge Monday morning. The amount discovered in the arrest is significant because any amount of marijuana above 2.2 pounds or a kilogram in the state of Alabama can result in a drug trafficking charge. Here's my favorite line of the story. Quote, Coach Nate Oates said the team is preparing to play without Holloway when it faces Hofstra on Friday in the NCAA tournament. No, duh. He's not going to play when he could be charged with drug trafficking.
Yeah,
But
man.
crazy.
Like, dude, like, listen, partake in what you want. But that much, like that much,
That's a lot.
like, dude, what are you trying to supply the whole team? Are you trying to be high every day, all day?
Smoke weed every day.
Like, dude, what is? I couldn't, like. Why do you just need that much? Like,
When I first
sitting
saw this
around, like,
story,
wow.
I thought we're still arresting people for marijuana.
well, that much.
And now I see it was 2.1 pounds. I'm like,
He hit you over the head with that thing. It is split it.
I kind of get it. I mean, Aiden Holloway averages 16.8 points per game for
Yes.
Alabama. This is not just some role player.
No,
He's an important player for the Crimson Tide. So I do wonder how this will affect Alabama in the NCAA tournament. But I got a kick out of this story from Myron Metcalf that says Alabama's not expecting this guy who just got arrested for having 2 pounds of marijuana to play in the tournament on
Oh,
Friday.
man.
No, duh.
Look,
it's like, come on, everybody. You couldn't figure that one out against Hofstra. Okay, all right, but it'll be a big story if he doesn't play the next game.
he has been charged with a Class C felony drug possession charge, not for personal use, and a failure to affix a tax stamp charge. They are both felonies,
So
and they both carry a maximum sentence of 10 years in jail.
They gonna get it for tax evasion.
Got to get in for something, I guess.
And no, it's not funny in that sense.
Yes.
But my thing is like, dude, like, again, partake in what but you know that, like, why even need that much? Like, you just wanted to get it all and not have to go back? Is that what the thing was? Probably so, but you got to understand, man, you are not just some average dude, you know? You're not. You're potentially an NBA player, a lottery pick, someone that is on a team that is, fighting for a national championship once it all starts. And not only that, man, it's just like your parents and in school. It's just like, man, you had so much to lose. Again, not saying partaking, it's legal, but that much is like, why? That's what if I'm a dad, that's what I would be saying. Like, why? Like, why? Okay, but why that much? Like, why that much?
Well, D-Mace, I mean, you do know Alabama basketball makes really good decisions. The players,
absolutely,
they make great decisions.
You're right about that.
Gator Tim, who probably doesn't like Alabama very much, says that gives new meaning to Roll Tide.
That was a good one.
Pause for laughter.
I am telling you, don't be surprised if they have some things in the stands when the Tide, when Alabama plays.
Yes.
Or when he's out there.
A lot of rolling paper.
Exactly.
Yes. First four action.
Smoke it if you got them.
Yep. First four action is underway, so the NCAA tournament has officially started.
Okay.
Howard, a 14-11 lead against UMBC, Maryland, Baltimore County. The winner of that game earns the right to get bludgeoned by Michigan in the first round of the Midwest Regional. The other game, Texas versus NC State at 8:15. First four action continues tomorrow as well. The actual NCAA tournament starts on Thursday, the round of 64, that is. our plan is to be joined by A.K. Okereke tomorrow of
Be
the
great.
Vanderbilt men's basketball
Looking
program.
forward to it.
They are in OKC preparing to take on McNeese in a 5-12 matchup. Sonny suggests high tide instead of roll tide, and also, high tide.
I
So,
get it.
Come on, man.
Yeah. Come on, man.
I don't pretend to
Like
know.
that's one of those things that you just say, dude, what were you thinking? Like, did you not think?
No, there was no thinking.
Yeah.
That was done. But
Oh well.
I mean,
I hope he can,
partake in what you want to partake in on your own time.
Exactly.
Just don't get potentially charged with drug trafficking.
Absolutely.
That's my only suggestion. That'll do it for us today. The Predators wrap up their road trip at 7 p.m. against the Winnipeg Jets. Another critical game for the Predators. 16 games left on the season. Winnipeg Jets 1 point behind the Predators in the standings, so another big one. We'll have Willie Donick finally back in the studio tomorrow. We haven't seen him in a minute. He'll be glad that he's not in frigid Winnipeg. We'll continue the conversation about the NCAA tournament tomorrow. Titans, Preds, it's all on the table. Preds pregame with Chase McCabe coming up next here on 102.5 The Game.
Be love on your people. Have a safe, blessed, and wonderful day. I love you. The team loves you. You hear that music? Don't you forget about us, because we will not forget about you. See you tomorrow. We will have a +1 because Willie will be back in the studio. Yeah. So peace. Love ya.